Thank you for joining us today on What's Up Prince William. Today we have Andrea Shea, the Community Services Board and Emergency Services Therapist. Thank you very much for being on our show today.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and what your department does.
So I work for what's called Emergency Services for the Community Services Board, and we are crisis evaluations. So anybody in the community, if they're having a crisis, that could be a mental health crisis, could be any sort of personal crisis, and they're needing a little bit of extra support and assistance, they can come and walk in, they can call us anytime, we're 24/7, and we're gonna kind of talk with them, figure out what that crisis is, and then the best way to kind of help them out. I liken us to like a mental health emergency room. We're kind of listening to what's going on, triage, and then hopefully get them connected with some other services. That's one of our main roles. Another primary role is we work very closely with the hospitals and with the police department. So if they have somebody they encounter in their emergency room or someone they encounter on the streets that's having a mental health crisis, they can call us and bring them either to us or to the emergency room, and we'll meet them and we'll do an evaluation for hospitalization.
And you work very closely with the emergency services like police or fire?
Correct. Not so much fire, unless... Not so much fire, but mainly with the police department, both on this side in Woodbridge and then also with the Manassas City Police Department and then the county on both sides of the county. So you could say that. Yes. They often call us to consult. They'll say, hey, we're at a house or we're walking, we're out at Wegmans or wherever, and this person seems a little odd to us. Do you know them? We'll look them up and so forth and try to have a conversation with the police department to help that individual who seems to be in a crisis.
And what kind of needs do you see that the county is lacking?
I would just have to say, in my opinion, psychiatric services, so meaning the doctors or the nurse practitioners who are able to provide medications for individuals. So even individuals that don't come and see us, that maybe they have private health insurance, there's not a lot in our county. People are often going up to Springfield, to Fairfax, down to Stafford, and it's not uncommon for someone to have to wait maybe 3 or 4 months to get a doctor's appointment to get started on medications. Even within our own agency, it can take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the time of year and staffing, for someone to get on medications, which can be a strain to the system in general, because if they're not on their medications, a person who has a severe mental illness, then they're going to come across police. They may come across the jail system. They may come across emergency rooms. And it just overall puts a strain on the system.
So in other ways that you may have seen some strains on the system, does that strain the police at all? Or?
Absolutely. They have frequent calls to the same house.
Okay.
And so they will have what they call call for service, and it's in their rundown. It's just a constant, again. It's not uncommon for me to talk to police officers and they said, we've been to this house 3 times tonight or in the last 24 hours. And because that person isn't necessarily getting the needs and support that they need from the Community Services Board or within the community, it just puts a strain on the police. The other strain on the police is that our system in Virginia is very broken, as it's been pretty much established, and police officers are often having to drive people all the way to Williamsburg, south of Richmond, to be in a hospital. They're the ones transporting them, and that can take an entire shift. A 10-hour shift is gone just from transporting someone, because we don't have the resources in Northern Virginia to get a person placed here for a psychiatric need.
So the policies that the police have in place right now, they do their best to find that person a bed, but that actually takes the officer out of the regular patrol and all that.
Out of the street, absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anytime we can prevent hospitalization, as part of emergency services, our goal is to prevent hospitalization.
Gotcha.
Our goal is to always find what we call a lesser restrictive alternative, which is family, other supports. Maybe it's what we call a crisis house, which is a voluntary where they can kind of go and sign themselves in so that police are never involved. We don't want to call police.
Right.
We want them to do their job on the streets. So at the last resort, we will call police, and vice versa. They'll call us.
And so your job really isn't just a 9 to 5 type job.
No.
So why don't you describe a little bit as far as your department, maybe the different thing I'll call it. People think you work for the government, it must be easy. This isn't necessarily a 9 to 5 easy
Can
job.
I call that person at 3 in the morning? So we're a 24/7 program, and one of the strains, if you want to call it, challenges we have is that we have to staff 24/7, which means we have to have clinicians on call, and they're either at home or they might be somewhere in the community doing an evaluation, and they get that call and they have to then go somewhere else, and this county's big. We've got anywhere from Dumfries to Haymarket, and that's a long trip. So no, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not uncommon. I mean, most of the time we have at least 1 to 3 evaluations happening between midnight and 8 a.m.,
Gotcha.
whether that's at the emergency rooms or with the police. And then we have our office hours staffed from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
So who can use your services?
Anybody can use our services in crisis, and it doesn't even have to be a Prince William County resident. If there's this is common, somebody could be having a crisis on their way from New Jersey to Florida.
Okay.
And they happen to enter our county, and Virginia State Police pick them up, or our police department picks them up. So if someone's in crisis, there's no exclusionary category for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now we will, like I said, kind of do a triage and help them stabilize as best we can. And then if they don't live in our county, then we work with their adjoining county.
Sure.
And if people have legitimate health insurance, so like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, Kaiser, then we try to connect them with their insurance companies. But if they don't have insurance, or they have Medicaid or Medicare, they can come and get services with us.
Okay.
Our primary role is to help those individuals in the community that don't have the resource of health insurance.
Gotcha. So is there you have some other sections of your department? What are some of those?
Within emergency services, we also work with the police, what's called the crisis intervention team, and this is a national/international, because we talk about Canada and we throw I think Australia in there to make it international, but it's a national program that was founded in Memphis in 1988 when there was an unfortunate incident between a seriously mentally ill person and a police officer in which he was killed by the police. And it became this huge awareness of we need to maybe change our thought process with law enforcement and people with mental health. Because the statistics right now is that 1 in 4 Americans are diagnosed with a mental health disorder. So it's advantageous to the police to learn how to work with those individuals and learn verbal de-escalation techniques a little bit more than what they would get at the academy, recognizing signs and symptoms of mental illness, and being able just to have conversations with people and just to not kind of be this, gun, the Old West, the, Wild West and everything, and just to really understand that they're all, people with mental illness are just people, with some sort of illness. And I feel that the Prince William County Police Department and the area with the city and the park have done an amazing job. The chief could not be more supportive of this program. The chief is just extremely supportive, as well as all the other department heads and so forth, to maintain the CIT program. So.
Because it seems like mental health issues seem to have like a stigma attached to them, and we seem to maybe slowly starting to change that, but it seems like it's going really, really slow.
It is, but I think change is slow. I feel that it's a lot better than what it was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. In my opinion, kids these days that go to school, it's not uncommon for their friend to be on medications. It's not weird for their friend to say, "Oh, I've been diagnosed with bipolar." Whether they're not, who knows? But saying I have bipolar is not a big deal anymore. And I think that the kids these days get a little bit older, and they don't have the stigma that perhaps us and older dealt with it when we were in our early teens or late teens and early 20s. And I think the culture in general is just changing for the better.
So, do you think that if we actually had a mental health facility in the county, do you think that would actually help alleviate issues with the police department, just the load on your organization, and how do you think that would actually benefit Prince William County? As far as just having to drive somewhere.
Right. I feel that there's a lot of ways we could do that. One thing we have right now is monies that it's over on our west end in still the county, but they have a a CIT officer who's been through the training, specialized training, and they have what we call an assessment center. And that person is brought in by police, and he does what's called a transfer of custody. So let's say I'm the police officer, I have the individual, I'm transferring the custody to you. And this is your detail. You're not on the street, you're just kind of on your own, although you're clothed and you have your gun and everything like that. And then that allows me, the officer initially, to go back out on the street. At this assessment center, it's very comfortable. We have what we call a peer who also has a mental health diagnosis work and talk with that consumer that's been brought in by police to help kind of ease the anxiety and the tension of all of this going on with the police department. And so that has, in my opinion, two benefits. One is it gets that officer back out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is for that consumer or the client or the person in crisis, is that if they're not handcuffed necessarily, they're not handcuffed to a bench, they're not handcuffed to a bed, all those indignities that come with being handcuffed, they don't have to be escorted to go to the bathroom, and it's just a nicer way of treating a human being. So that's one thing that we already have going on, that the police department and the CSB have together. Another thing that we're trying to start slowly is to try to do these evaluations out in the field, meaning we meet the police officer out in the field. As clinicians, that's their job, officer safety, let them do their thing. We'll wait till the scene is clear and safe, and then we'll go meet that individual in their home. Mm-hmm. That individual may not need to come in and be handcuffed, and then sit in the back of a police cruiser. They just may be having a bad day and they made a statement that they don't really mean. Mm-hmm. And to save that person time, money, a lot of times police don't know where to take them, so they just take them to the emergency room, which is very full. So it saves the emergency room, all of that. It saves that person a huge bill as well to be taken down. They don't have the emergency room. They can just, everything can get kind of sorted out in the home, which is a much more, in my opinion, dignified place. That's not to say if the person is really in need of psychiatric assistance, we'll do our procedure. But this way we're hoping to kind of make things a little bit more human, as well as save the time. We've done a couple trials, and the police officers said each time it's probably saved them anywhere from 2 to 4 hours.
Well, that's a lot.
Yes, exactly. Per case, yeah, huge. Right. And it saved that person hospital bills, being transported in the back of a police. It's embarrassing. You've got police at your home, and it's just embarrassing for people. Gotcha. So,
well, it's we thank you very much for you and what your department does. Thank you for being on our show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We'll definitely have you back on too,
I would love that.
on some other parts of your department.
Great, thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on What's Up, Prince William.